we photographers need filters to increase contrast, to create more vivid colors, eliminating glare and distracting reflections from watery and glassy surfaces. But they can also impact our work negatively. An overabundance of color correction or contrast, well, it can encourage objects to flare or seem unnatural. But today, Canon's found a solution to deal with some of these negative issues. In Canon patent filing JP 2024-080611, filed on December 1st, 2022, but later amended on October 24th, 2024, and published on June 13th, 2024, Canon claims to suppress optical performance deterioration in accordance to the insertion and removal of a wavelength filter. What exactly does this mean, you ask? Well, the invention provides an optical apparatus that can automatically adjust its optical performance based on the type of wavelength filter inserted. This adjustment ensures that the optical performance remains high, whether the filter is inserted or removed. I know what you're thinking. Does this patent application refer to ND filters or color filters that you screw on the end of your lens? Or does it apply to those new internal ND filters found on the Canon C400? Those new internal mechanical filters? And could we see this technology, not just the internal ND filters, but also this wavelength filter in the Canon EOS R5 Mark II, or even the Canon EOS R1, or would it be limited to cinema cameras like the C400? Well, first let's try to understand how it does it, the patent application that is, and then let's address where it might show up, such as the R5 Mark II, the R1, or the C400. Figure 1 of the patent application illustrates a generic camera on the right, and on the left, an interchangeable zoom lens. The zoom lens, which is interchangeable, also includes a zoom drive unit, a diaphragm drive unit, an image stabilization unit, a focus unit, a lens microcomputer, and a storage unit. And so now that you understand what that diagram's all about, let's dig into how Canon actually applies this new wavelength filter and how it's able to reduce some of the negative effects of using neutral density filters, color filters, and other types of filters with your camera. The zoom lens moves in an optical axis direction of the camera to change the focal length. The zoom driving unit moves the lens in accordance with the instructions from the lens microcomputer that has acquired the position of the zoom lens, detected using a position sensor such as a potentiometer. But it's the camera body's wavelength filter that is responsible for controlling the wavelengths of light that pass through the sensor, allowing the optical device to adapt to different lighting conditions and therefore achieve optimal image quality. So what the patent applications get, yeah, I know, Mark, it's not clear. I know, it's machine translated from Japanese. Forgive me for a moment here. Mark just sometimes likes to jump in, and I know he's got a good point. It's very hard sometimes to understand what these patent applications are saying because I'm dealing with a machine translated version of the patent application that was actually written in clear Japanese by engineers and lawyers. And while it makes sense to them, even when machine translated and massaged a little bit, it's a little bit hard to follow. But we are going to talk about whether this applies to cameras such as the R5, the R1, the C400, whether it's internal mechanical ND filters or electronic filters, or the screw-on filters that you put onto the end of a lens, such as ND filters or color filters. Just bear with me, I think this paragraph is going to make a lot of sense. JP 2024-080611 refers to wavelength filters like infrared filters or bandpass filters that allow specific wavelengths of light to pass through while blocking others. While ND filters are not explicitly mentioned, they could be considered under the broader category of filters that control the characteristics of light entering the camera. I've been studying Canon's patent applications for the last 6 months in depth, every week looking at different patent applications. This is kind of this really is the first patent application that talks about ND filters in terms of removing some of the negative effects of not just ND filters, but filters in general. Now, in terms of improving image quality, well, we've seen near a dozen patent applications that talk about improving image quality, improving the optical performance, not just of the image sensor, but the image processor, other chips in the camera, as well as the optics of the lens itself, reducing the size and the weight, but improving optics. it's really hard to determine how much improved image quality might be gained from this wavelength filter, and if this wavelength filter will find its way into the Canon EOS R5 Mark II, the R1, or even the C400. But it's certainly plausible. But before I make the prediction that this will be in the R5 Mark II or the R1, I'm going to be paying very close attention to other patent applications that are getting published this week, last week, and in the upcoming weeks. As I've seen before with autofocus enhanced capabilities in patent applications, there's been many of them. And after the announcement of the Canon EOS R1, that development announcement from several weeks back, well, we finally started to see patent applications that talk about how Canon's able to improve the autofocus system, so that way if the subject is moving in and out of the frame, if it's on a basketball court, for example, and the person with the ball is automatically locked onto, based on the autofocus system, the action priority mode. And that's what's really exciting about these patent applications. These aren't rumors. These aren't coming from apparently known sources or sources that aren't verifiable or reliable. This is coming from Canon's own words, from their own research and development, from their own engineers and their own lawyers that have been published and very carefully scrutinized over. And that takes an awful lot of effort. So one patent application dealing with a wavelength filter to reduce the negative effects of filters in a camera is one thing. Half a dozen or a dozen patent applications referring to improving image quality is another. We'll just have to wait and see if we're able to catch any more patent applications dealing with this wavelength filter. But now I want to turn your attention to some deals of the week. Specifically, a sale I mentioned last week or on Sunday that's still on today. And this really applies to those who are very seriously thinking about getting the Canon EOS R1 with its 24 megapixel sensor. Now that it's not going up to 30 megapixels, that might have you take a more serious look at the Canon EOS R3. When it came out, it was $59.99. And then it dropped down to $44.99. And now today at B&H, take a look at this price. No, wait, it doesn't mention a price. You have to click on that button to get an email, and when the email shows up, it shows you this price here, $39.99. And that, right now, $39.99 is a B&H only price. I just checked Adorama and it's still $44.99. For some reason, you do have to click on that button and it'll send you an email shortly thereafter, and then you're able to get the camera for $39.99. And it's a really good deal. And I want to say a special thanks to the person who who purchased the R3 from B&H for $39.99. Thank you so much. If you do the same, plus there's also, I've got about 20 different links to various pre-orders for the C400, for the RF 35mm f1.4, for the GH7, and we've got about 20 other cameras that are on sale. Big sales, best sales ever on all cameras, up to $150 off the R50. And of course, the R5 is $28.99, the Nikon Z8, a whole bunch of lenses that are on sale. And if you do use these links or my pre-order links, any of the affiliate links that I have in the description down below, for disclosure, not for transparency's sake, I could make anywhere from 2 to 12% back in terms of commission. Now, you don't have to put in any codes, you don't have to click on any special forms. It takes you directly to the website, you get the deal, and I get a small commission back. So you get to support this channel by saving yourself a ton of money. And a big thanks to those of you that have used my affiliate links in the past. But now I want to draw your attention to a big announcement coming up on Monday. It's a Nikon announcement, and the cat's out of the bag. It is the Nikon Z6 Mark III. Now, we're just a few days away, and yet we don't have any validated leak specifications at this point. However, I do expect over the next couple of days, even before Sunday comes to a close, that we'll finally have some leaked photos, some leaked images, some leaked specs of the final retail product. The Nikon event will be held on Monday, June the 17th at 8 o'clock in the morning. But I'm going to be providing live coverage starting 1 hour earlier at 7 o'clock. I'm going to have my expert panel where we're going to talk about what we think the Nikon Z6, who it's aimed for, what Nikon's trying to do with this latest incarnation. Now, obviously, they're competing against the Canon R6 Mark II and the Sony a7 IV, as well as maybe the Panasonic S5 Mark II and 2X. So please tune in and join the festivities then. And thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and choose all notifications if you want to stay up to date on the latest and greatest. But you also might want to follow me on X. Canon came out with a new announcement, or sorry, a new event yesterday. And I had already tweeted out shortly after Canon had scheduled this event that I thought it was just more or less some sort of interview or some sort of town hall, and it was talking to, I think, an ambassador of light or somebody like that. It wasn't an announcement, and well, I had to put out a video the following day to let people know, don't expect an announcement, don't expect the R5 Mark II. And if you had followed me on X, well, you would have known that instead of getting all hyped up expecting the R5 Mark II. July is when we're getting the announcement of the R5 Mark II, not sooner, although it would be nice. Anyhow, thank you so much for tuning in. Have yourself a great day, a great weekend, and don't be surprised if we see each other real soon.